I held him within 5 minutes of him being born.
Are you surprised by the love you feel for baby Eric?
I actually said to Lauren beforehand, what if I liked the dogs more than him?
The room was almost silent. No flashing cameras, no cheering crowds, no bright stage lights. Just Simon Cowell standing alone, looking at a chapter of his life that had defined him for decades. Millions of people knew him as the fearless judge who never held back. He was the man who could make or break a dream with just a few words. But this moment was different. There were no contestants to judge and no audience waiting for his famous reactions. Instead, Simon was facing one of the hardest emotional moments of his life. It was a goodbye that few people expected, and the reason behind it revealed a side of him that fans had rarely seen. Before we uncover what happened next, tell us in the comments, if you had to choose between your career and your family, what would you do? Your answer might be closer to Simon's than you think. For years, Simon Cowell seemed almost impossible to slow down. Whether he was discovering new talent, producing hit television shows, or sitting behind the judge's table with his trademark honesty, he always appeared completely focused on success. His schedule was packed, his standards were high, and many people believed work would always come first. But life has a strange way of changing even the strongest people when they least expect it. Long before the emotional goodbye that shocked many of his fans, small changes had already begun to appear. Most people simply didn't notice them. Those closest to Simon started seeing a different side of him. He smiled more often. He spent more time away from television studios. Interviews that once focused only on ratings and business slowly turned toward family and personal happiness. It wasn't a sudden transformation. It happened one step at a time. Every experience taught him something new. Every challenge reminded him that fame could never replace the people waiting for him at home. Still, few realized just how deeply these lessons were shaping the decisions he would eventually make. Then life delivered another powerful reminder that nothing lasts forever. Simon's serious electric bike accident became one of the biggest wake-up calls of his life. In a single moment, everything changed. Recovery was slow and painful. Doctors warned him that the outcome could have been much worse. For someone who had always lived life at full speed, being forced to stop was incredibly difficult. Yet during those long weeks of healing, Simon had something he had rarely allowed himself before: time to think. And what he discovered during those quiet moments would completely reshape the future he wanted. Instead of rushing back into the spotlight as quickly as possible, Simon began speaking more openly about what truly mattered. He admitted that success meant very little if you couldn't enjoy it with the people you loved. Fans who had watched him for decades noticed something surprising. The sharp-tongued judge who once seemed impossible to impress was now talking about gratitude, second chances, and making every day count. But even then, another emotional decision was quietly taking shape behind the scenes, and almost nobody knew it was coming. As Simon looked back over his remarkable career, he realized that every achievement had come with sacrifices: endless travel, long filming schedules, constant public attention. For years, he accepted those sacrifices as the price of success. But priorities change. The things that once seemed most important slowly lost their place. Family dinners meant more than television ratings. Quiet weekends became more valuable than glamorous events. The applause that once filled arenas could never compete with simple moments shared with the people he loved. That growing realization led Simon toward an emotional goodbye that wasn't really about leaving television forever. It was about saying goodbye to the version of himself that believed work had to come before everything else. It meant choosing balance over endless ambition. It meant protecting the life he had built outside the cameras. Many fans misunderstood the changes at first, believing Simon was stepping away because he had lost his passion. The truth was almost the opposite. He had simply discovered something that mattered even more. But what happened after this decision surprised even the people closest to him. Instead of fading away from public life, Simon found a completely different purpose, one that would inspire millions of fans around the world. And the emotional moment that proved just how much he had changed was still waiting to happen. There was a time when Simon Cowell believed success was measured by numbers. Television ratings, record sales, sold-out auditions, global franchises. Every new season had to be bigger than the last. Every winner had to become a star. That relentless drive helped turn him into one of the most powerful names in entertainment. But after years of living under constant pressure, Simon slowly began to realize that no amount of fame could stop time from moving forward. The people around him noticed subtle changes first. He no longer rushed into every project with the same intensity. Instead of filling every day with meetings and production schedules, he started protecting time that could never be replaced. And while many people thought he was simply slowing down, the truth was much deeper. Simon wasn't walking away from success. He was redefining what success actually meant. But one unexpected moment would make that lesson even clearer than ever before. When Simon became a father, something inside him shifted in a way he never imagined possible. For decades, people had known him as the brutally honest judge who rarely showed emotion. Contestants feared his criticism, while audiences loved his confidence. Yet the arrival of his son changed the conversations he had with himself. Instead of thinking only about the next television season, he found himself thinking years ahead. He wanted to be present. He wanted memories that cameras would never record. Friends who had known him for decades admitted they had never seen him happier. They saw a man laughing more often, smiling without trying, and finding joy in the smallest family moments. The transformation surprised almost everyone because it happened naturally. Fame had given Simon everything money could buy, but fatherhood gave him something money never could. Still, balancing those two worlds would soon become one of the greatest challenges of his life. As his priorities continued changing, Simon also became more honest during interviews. He spoke about how quickly life could change and how important it was not to take loved ones for granted. The serious back injury he suffered in his electric bike accident had forced him to stop living at full speed. During recovery, he realized just how fragile life really is. There were days when simple movements became difficult. There were moments when he questioned whether he had pushed himself too hard for too many years. Those difficult months became more than physical healing. They became emotional healing as well. Instead of asking what project should come next, Simon started asking a much more important question. What kind of life did he truly want when the cameras stopped rolling? The answer wasn't found in another television contract. It was waiting inside his own home. Fans began noticing that Simon looked different. Not because of age or appearance, but because of the peace he seemed to carry. The competitive edge was still there whenever he judged new talent, but it was balanced by warmth that audiences hadn't always seen before. Contestants often spoke about how encouraging he had become, especially when someone truly believed in their dream. Simon still gave honest criticism, but there was now compassion behind it. Many viewers wondered what had caused such a dramatic change. They didn't realize that the biggest lessons in his life had happened away from television studios, in quiet moments with family, during recovery, and through experiences that reminded him how precious every single day really is. Sometimes the strongest people change, not because they become weaker, but because they finally discover what deserves their strength. Right in the middle of this new chapter, Simon faced another difficult decision. Opportunities kept arriving from every direction. New television ideas, international productions, expanding his entertainment empire. Years earlier, he would have accepted nearly every challenge without hesitation. Now, however, he started asking a simple question before saying yes. Would this take valuable time away from the people who mattered most? That one question quietly changed everything. Some projects were delayed. Others were turned down completely. Industry insiders were surprised because Simon had built his career by never slowing down. Yet for him, saying no had become just as powerful as saying yes. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe, because the next part reveals the emotional decision that many fans never fully understood, and it shows why Simon's greatest achievement may have had nothing to do with television at all. Then came a deeply personal realization that stayed with Simon wherever he went. Every goodbye carries meaning. Whether it's leaving a television set after filming, saying farewell to longtime co-workers, or closing the door on another chapter of life, those moments remind us that nothing lasts forever. Simon began appreciating endings instead of fearing them. Every ending created space for something new. Every goodbye allowed him to spend more time with the people he loved. Every difficult decision strengthened the values he wanted to live by. Looking back, he no longer measured his life by awards, money, or headlines. He measured it by memories, conversations, and the simple happiness of being fully present. But the most emotional goodbye of all was still ahead, and when it finally arrived, even Simon struggled to hold back his emotions. That moment would reveal a side of him the world had rarely seen, and it would leave millions of fans looking at him in a completely different way. The moment finally arrived without the loud headlines many people expected. There was no dramatic announcement, no shocking press conference, and no grand farewell on a brightly lit stage. Instead, it happened through a series of quiet choices that slowly revealed how much Simon Cowell had changed. For years, his identity had been tied to television. Millions of viewers expected to see him sitting behind the judges' table, delivering honest opinions that could instantly change someone's future. But Simon was beginning to understand that every chapter has an ending, and sometimes the strongest decision is knowing when to step back. It wasn't because he had stopped loving the entertainment business. It was because he had learned that life outside the spotlight deserved just as much attention. And what happened next made that lesson even more powerful. The moment finally arrived without the loud headlines many people expected. There was no dramatic announcement, no shocking press conference, and no grand farewell on a brightly lit stage. Instead, it happened through a series of quiet choices that slowly revealed how much Simon Cowell had changed. For years, his identity had been tied to television. Millions of viewers expected to see him sitting behind the judges' table, delivering honest opinions that could instantly change someone's future. But Simon was beginning to understand that every chapter has an ending, and sometimes the strongest decision is knowing when to step back. It wasn't because he had stopped loving the entertainment business. It was because he had learned that life outside the spotlight deserved just as much attention. And what happened next made that lesson even more powerful. People who worked closely with Simon noticed that he had become far more interested in creating memories than creating headlines. Instead of constantly chasing the next big project, he started enjoying the moments that cameras would never capture. A quiet breakfast with family. A walk without reporters following him. A simple afternoon filled with laughter instead of meetings. These ordinary moments had become extraordinary to him. Looking back, Simon admitted that there had been years when work consumed almost every part of his life. Success demanded long hours, endless travel, and difficult sacrifices. At the time, he believed that was simply the price of building something great. But now he understood that while careers can always grow, time with loved ones can never be replaced once it is gone. That realization became one of the biggest turning points of his entire life. As these changes became more visible, many fans wondered if Simon was preparing to say goodbye to television forever. Rumors spread quickly across social media. Some claimed he was retiring. Others believed he had lost his passion. But the truth was far more meaningful. Simon wasn't running away from his career. He was simply refusing to let his career define his entire life anymore. There is a huge difference between those two things. He still loved discovering talented performers. He still enjoyed helping people chase impossible dreams. But he no longer believed that success required sacrificing every personal moment along the way. That message quietly inspired countless people who had spent years putting work ahead of family, health, and happiness. Have you ever worked so hard that you almost forgot to enjoy life? Let us know in the comments because your story may inspire someone else who needs to hear it today. The emotional goodbye wasn't directed at one person. It was a farewell to an old mindset that had followed Simon for decades. It was a goodbye to endless pressure, impossible expectations, and the belief that happiness always lived somewhere in the future. Instead, he began focusing on the present. Friends described him as calmer, more patient, more grateful. Contestants who met him often spoke about his kindness behind the scenes, saying he offered encouragement when cameras weren't even rolling. That side of Simon rarely made headlines, yet it revealed more about his character than any television performance ever could. Sometimes the greatest transformations happen quietly, one decision at a time, until one day people suddenly realize they are looking at a completely different person. Even with all these changes, Simon never forgot where he came from. He often spoke about taking risks, believing in yourself, and never giving up after failure. Those values remained at the center of everything he did. The difference was that he now believed success should improve your life, not completely take it over. That lesson resonated with millions of people around the world who were trying to balance careers, relationships, and personal happiness. If this story reminds you of someone who works too hard and forgets to enjoy the people around them, share this video with them. Sometimes one story is enough to change someone's perspective forever. As another chapter of Simon's remarkable journey came to a close, he realized something that had taken decades to understand. Every goodbye opens the door to a new beginning. Leaving behind old habits allowed him to embrace a richer, more meaningful life filled with moments that no award could ever replace. Yet the story wasn't over. One final promise, made not to the public, but to the people closest to his heart, would become the most emotional part of his entire journey. And that promise would forever change the way millions of fans remembered Simon Cowell. Looking back on his incredible journey, Simon Cowell could finally see the path that had brought him to this moment. It hadn't been a straight road filled only with success. There had been criticism, failures, painful injuries, difficult decisions, and moments when the pressure of being one of the biggest names in entertainment felt almost impossible to carry. Yet every challenge had quietly shaped the person he was becoming. The confident judge the world first met years ago was still there, but now he was joined by someone who understood that the greatest victories often happen far away from television cameras. Those victories are measured in time spent with family, conversations that last for hours, and memories that stay with you long after applause fades away. That realization became the promise Simon wanted to keep for the rest of his life. He no longer wanted every day to be controlled by schedules, deadlines, or endless meetings. Instead, he promised himself that he would never again allow work to steal the moments that mattered most. It was a simple promise, but also one of the hardest to keep in an industry that never truly slows down. Every new opportunity still looked exciting. Every television project still carried the chance to reach millions of viewers. But Simon had learned that saying yes to everything often meant saying no to the people waiting for him at home. This time, he chose differently. His career would always be an important part of his life, but it would never again become his entire life. That emotional goodbye wasn't about leaving success behind. It was about finally putting success in its proper place. Fans who had followed Simon for decades began noticing something inspiring. His interviews became less about business and more about gratitude. Instead of talking only about ratings or competition, he spoke about enjoying life, appreciating second chances, and making every day count. Those words carried extra meaning because they came from someone who had spent years chasing perfection. Simon wasn't pretending that life had suddenly become easy. He knew there would always be new challenges. But he had discovered that facing those challenges alongside the people you love makes every difficult day a little easier to carry. Sometimes the strongest people are not the ones who never fall. They are the ones who stand up with a different understanding of what truly matters. His message also reached thousands of young people dreaming about fame. Simon encouraged them to work hard, believe in themselves, and never stop improving. But he also reminded them that success without balance can leave you feeling empty. Money can buy comfort. Awards can earn respect. Fame can open incredible doors. Yet none of those things can replace the laughter shared around a dinner table or the comfort of knowing the people you love are by your side. That lesson became one of the most valuable pieces of wisdom Simon ever shared, and many fans said it changed the way they looked at their own lives. Think about your own journey for a moment. Have you been so busy chasing tomorrow that you've forgotten to enjoy today? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments because your story could encourage someone else who is facing the same struggle. As the years continued, Simon's legacy became about far more than discovering superstar singers or creating some of the biggest talent shows in television history. His greatest legacy became the example he set by proving that it's never too late to change your priorities. It's never too late to become a better father, a better friend, or a better version of yourself. That is a lesson every generation can understand. If you've enjoyed this journey and want more inspiring stories about the lives of your favorite celebrities, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. We have many more untold stories that reveal the moments the cameras never captured. In the end, Simon Cowell's emotional goodbye wasn't really an ending at all. It was the beginning of a life built on different values, deeper relationships, and a clearer understanding of what success truly means. The man once known for his sharp words and impossible standards showed the world that even the toughest personalities can grow, change, and discover new purpose. His story reminds us that life isn't measured by how many trophies we collect or how many headlines we create. It's measured by the people we love, the memories we build, and the promises we keep. And perhaps that's why Simon's most unforgettable goodbye became his most meaningful hello, a hello to a future where family, gratitude, and purpose finally came first. As one chapter closed, another quietly began, leaving behind a message that will continue inspiring people for years to come. And if you think this story was emotional, wait until you see what happened in our next documentary, where another global icon faced a life-changing moment that no one saw coming.